basically, if you didn't want to buy into the Swans culture, as talented as you were, basically you got spat out pretty early and easily too. So there was a lot of gifted and way more talented players than myself that couldn't commit to what was expected of you as a player. So it was obviously on decals all across the locker rooms around what we wanted to pride ourselves on, which was hard discipline and relentless. That's not just in your football, but that, as I said, that's in your diet, your recovery, your day-to-day stuff. So, and I still carry those sort of behaviours into my daily life now, so I'm really fortunate.
You're listening to the One-on-One Football Podcast, the number one podcast for Aussie Rules training, coaching and development tips.
Welcome back to the One-on-One Football Podcast. Andrew Rains here, the founder of One-on-One Football. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Harry Symington. Welcome back, Harry.
Thanks, Rainsy. Good to be back, mate. And as always, can't wait to pick the brains of today's guest. So without further ado, Bevo, welcome. And thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries, lads. Great to be involved.
Yeah, mate, take us back to the start. You grew up in Sydney, New South Wales. Is obviously a big rugby state, and according to Wikipedia, which we always do a bit of research here, you've got a Rugby League Hall of Famer in the family, your great uncle Brian. Did you play rugby league at all growing up? And how'd you get into AFL?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you looked at Wikipedia, mate, and it's showing my actual proper history, because my mates have been on there a few times and changed it a few times with some funny stuff in there. So I'm glad it's showing the right details. But yeah, mate, grew up in Sydney, played a lot of league at school. Back then, rugby league was sort of the only sport offered at school. And then as AFL started getting popular, it started being reintroduced to the school program. But played a bit of league, mate, bit of union as well. So just obviously my mates were more leagueies than AFL. So that's just the norm, I suppose, growing up in a rugby league state.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then if you fast forward to 2003, you're rookie listed by the Swans at pick 64 overall, and then the following year, 2004, you're elevated to senior list, and in that same year, you play 24 senior games, get nominated for the Rising Star, and then the year after, in 2005, you're a Premiership player with the Swans. So in the space of just 3 years, you transformed from a rookie-listed player from New South Wales, rugby background, into a Premiership player. Could you just talk us through that transformation and how you earned your place in such a competitive team at such a young age?
Yeah, that first year, so when I was drafted as an 18-year-old, 2003, sort of pretty raw kid coming in with not a lot of skill, just had the right attitude, and got through the whole year playing twos footy. And I was pretty lucky, to be honest, I was only rookie listed, as you said, but I got a second year out of them to come back. So that off-season, after my first year, I basically trained without having a break and got myself really fit. Come back that second year and was flying in all the pre-season running. No one sort of expected me to play senior footy, that's for sure, but I was running well, and then that sort of transpired into the pre-season games and played good footy. And got basically going into the first game was Brisbane. I wasn't even on the emergency list, but we had someone go down. Ty Kennelly went down in the coaches captain's run on the Friday, and got the call up to play round one against Brisbane, who just come off 3 premierships, so up at the Gabba. So that was my first game.
Yeah, incredible story, mate, and I think that's a great message in there for a lot of young footballers out there. Just the impression you can make at pre-season. You come out and you're fully fit and you go away and do the work. I think first impressions definitely straight up after sort of a bit of time off is always important. Those guys are pushing for a senior spot and trying to cement their spot. Those extras in the off season is really important. Obviously too, you're in a really good culture and successful period throughout the Swans in the Swans history when you were there. Talk us through that Bloods culture and how do you define the Bloods culture? Who were some of the real drivers behind that sort of philosophy, and how did you sort of buy into it?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. played footy at the Swans. Obviously, the culture is well known. Basically, from get-go, the day one, you're sort of told what the expectations are as a person, the way you carry yourself outside of the training, and just basically you got to live it day by day. Some of the key personnel that drove it were, biggest influence on me was Stuart Maxfield. Come from Richmond, then obviously played at Sydney as well, but there was no one harder or more disciplined than Stewie. Basically, he saw something in me from the get-go, so basically just put me under his wing and just showed me the ropes, really. I remember we did a bit of circle work in my second year, and I had to run with Stewie, and I was cooked. He just ran, and just showed me, if you want to, I was sort of more of a back pocket lockdown player, but was looking at opportunities to go as a run with player. And he showed me how hard you actually got to work to play in that sort of midfield position. So he was a big driver. But basically, if you didn't want to buy into the Swans culture, as talented as you were, basically you got spat out pretty early and easily too. So there was a lot of gifted and way more talented players than myself that couldn't commit to what was expected of you as a player. So it was obviously on decals all across the locker rooms around what we wanted to pride ourselves on, which was hard discipline and relentless. That's not just in your football, but that, as I said, that's in your diet, your recovery, your day-to-day stuff. So and I still carry those sort of behaviours into my daily life now, so I'm really fortunate.
That's just brought back a few memories. My first game was back in 2004. Probably would have played against you at the MCG. It was actually Danny Frawley's last game as coach at Richmond, and made my debut. And I remember lining up on Stewie, and he took me for one of those runs across the MCG, and it was like it sort of set the tone for me personally, just sort of playing against someone with that intensity and running capability. And I was thinking, welcome to league football. I've got a fair way to go here, and obviously very fortunate to have him by his side as a mentor, mate. So that's great little lesson there, and great for a young bloke coming through to have.
Yeah, another part of that is he was a big driver of around, it's a team effort really. So if anyone's stuffed up, missed a massage or missed an appointment or training if they were 10 minutes late, the whole team would have to turn up the next morning down at Maroubra Beach at 6 a.m. and we would have to bring 2 bricks with us, and it was like a punishment session. So basically you had to do knuckle push-ups on the hard bitumen floor and then go down to the ocean, circle up, get the guy that's stuffed up in the middle, and we'd have to carry our bricks out on the side and do all these sort of shoulder rotation stuff. And everyone was hurting and hating the guy in the middle, but that just showed you it was just a whole, a team philosophy around if one guy stuffs up, it affects the whole team. So he was the instigator of that, and I quietly loved it, mate. I love that sort of stuff. It just, as I said, it gave people like myself who were less talented but wanted to buy into that culture a real opportunity to get ahead of, I suppose, the guys that didn't want to commit as much.
That's brought back another few more memories for me. Just the old knuckle push-ups. And a game on Buchanan, your Premiership teammate, a good mate of mine. We were at Brisbane together. Brought in the knuckle push-ups on Cooperoo car park one morning after we had a putrid session or something happened. Someone slept in or whatever it was, and Monty got everyone to circle up in the car park at Cooperoo there, and we did the old knuckle push-ups, and there was young boys crying and there was blood going everywhere, and they're not the best of memories, but you do it for a purpose, don't you?
Absolutely. I'm glad he brought it to you guys and wasn't just us.
Now, Bevo, you mentioned before those 3 themes. I guess the pillars that the culture was built on. So hard, disciplined, relentless, was it?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yep.
So with that, I guess philosophy, was that something that was player driven? At the start of the year, you jump in a meeting and come up with the theme for the year, or was it something that was sort of carried on from the prior year, and it was just something that a young player sort of walked into straight away?
Yeah, it was actually created the year that I was drafted, 2003. Was in the pre-season. We sort of had just an open forum where players wanted to basically come up with three things that we wanted to buy into, and there was different pillars that some players suggested, but these were the three that everyone sort of put their hand up and agreed on. So 2003, and it saw me throughout my 9 years at Sydney. I'm not sure if that's changed slightly since then, but they were the three pillars that we sort of committed to right through my journey anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned as well that you sort of carried that into your life outside of footy. What are some examples of, I guess those behaviours off field that you've sort of carried along from your days at the Swans?
Yeah, so just in my professional career, I'm, the discipline side of it is big with me. I'm always super diligent in my preparation for anything that's required for me in a work aspect. There's a lot of trust in my role. I'm in a sales position at the moment. You can sort of get away with a few things and shortcuts, but that Swan sort of culture is just ingrained. I can't explain it, but it's just it's like a little person talking to you in your head type thing. If you're ever sort of questioning something, the heart is. I've just always been someone that had to work a little bit harder than the people in the room, generally speaking. The role that I'm in, there's a lot of obviously experience and people with science and backgrounds, etc. And I don't have that. I've only got a business management course, but I've just found a way, some way, just through my work ethic. So it definitely carries on into my daily life, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting point there, mate, you make about playing your role, and obviously in a team environment like you're talking about before in your work these days, but back in your playing days, you talk about the importance of, we talk about as coaches and players and everything, you hear it a lot, playing your role. I think we've seen in recent times at Richmond, they've got their superstar players, but they've also got a lot of role players, and that's clearly why they've had so much success. Just for our younger listeners out there, sometimes it takes a fair bit to sacrifice your game for the team and for the better. And that might, sometimes mean that if you're a midfielder, gun midfielder, or whatever, and you get put back or you get put forward or you're asked to play on someone, sometimes that can rub players up the wrong way and they think, why me and why am I doing this? And in your case, mate, you played a really important role as a sort of a shutdown defender that could play a run with role. And it paid off massively for you, in your case, a premiership. Just for our younger listeners out there, and possibly any coaches too, we've got a lot of coaches that do listen to this too, how'd you work your way around through that? And it sounds like it did come from that culture and wanting to cement your spot, but just talk to us about sort of, the aspect of playing your role for the better of the team.
Yeah, it's a hard one as a young kid because you sort of judge your game on how many kicks and that sort of jazz. But just I suppose for me, which I sort of try to pass on to the kids that I work with, is it's not about the number of kicks, it's the quality when you do get the footy in your hands. So a game of footy is 120 minutes. So you might have your hands on the footy for 40 seconds out of that, or a minute if you have 15 to 20 touches. So it's the quality and care that you take with the footy when it's in your hands. And in terms of the role, it's just understanding what your role is before the game. You might think it's to go and get 20 kicks, but your coach might think it is, every time you get the footy, I want you to look inside and hit the usable, or it might be a shutdown role one week. So it's that open communication with your coach, understanding what the role is, not just assuming you know what the role is. Just having that dialogue with your coach. And if you are a coach, making sure it's really clear to the player what your expectations are for them for this game. And just having a tangible, really realistic expectation of the player, so he can come off at the end of the game and say, look, I was able to achieve these things and tick off on those things, and that's your role played. So for me, it was during my playing days, I had a real clear understanding what the expectation was of me, and externally, I wasn't concerned about the noise. If there was certain people wanting me out of the team because I wasn't getting enough of the footy, I know that I was doing my part and making us a better team. through my, you've got to be able to sacrifice your game for the betterment of the team as well. So you've got to be willing to do that. And I always talk to my players that I work with is around attitude as well. So no one wants to work with or play with players that are more concerned around their own individual performance. They want team players. They want guys that are committed to the team first mentality. So and that's what AFL clubs. I did some recruiting for Sydney when I went over to WA post Swannies time, and the big thing they looked at was attitude in a game, and were you a good kid outside of footy as well. So they looked into your schooling, your home life, and those sort of things. So team first for me, definitely.
Absolutely. And talk us through a couple of the sort of key roles. Definitely, it's well noted. You do a bit of research on you, and obviously the role you played on Ashley Sampi grand final day, and that year. Talk us through some of the key roles, key players you played on, and also too, for our coaches out there, just any technical things around playing that sort of small shutdown, sort of defender role in the back line. Anything technical you can share with our coaches or players?
Yeah, look, I wasn't blessed with pace, Rainsy, so I wasn't quick at all. But some reason I was always put on the real small, whippy, nippy players. So just using your attributes, I like the physicality. So generally speaking, if you're playing on those smaller, crafty forwards, they don't like the physical contact. I used to watch a lot of vision of the opposing player that I was up against, and just looking at where he likes to position himself around stoppages and that sort of thing. So I'd always look at body contact. That was important for me. For a player that I was playing on, he just be able to run at the footy straight away without getting any body contact. For me, using my attributes, which was that body contact. In terms of personnel, yes, to play on like players like Aaron Davey, as you mentioned, Sampi. But I'd also play on some mid-sized players as well. And just looking to, just help out the fellow defenders when I could, just so I could trust on them to help out too. So, not locking onto a player and just thinking I've got to worry about him for the game, being able to leave at the right opportunity too. So that takes some courage as well, to be able to leave your man and help out as well. So just for the coaches out there that have got some defender type players, lock on players, just support them as much as you can. As I said before, they're not getting much of the footy, but if they can keep their man quiet, I think they need to be told that they're playing their role. And don't pigeonhole a certain player to a lockdown role. They've probably got some attributes that can help. I was thrown up forward a few times and got myself in some good spots and kicked a couple of goals as well. So just give them an opportunity to play elsewhere as well if you see some attributes there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big themes that we like to chat about on this show is I guess the finer details in footy, and obviously every player's got their own strengths and weaknesses, and I'd be interested to get your advice for the listeners out there. Do you spend most of your time coaching footballers to raise a level of their weaknesses to be a more rounded player, or do you think it's more important to turn your strengths into real weapons? You mentioned that your physicality was something that could allow you to sort of deal with a faster player and play to your strengths. Do you think do you think it's important to do both, or would you recommend working on strengths over weaknesses, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm probably more so the using your attributes, so leveraging off those more than spending too much time on your weaknesses. But everyone's got their own opinion. But in saying that, you've got to be able to, AFL footy, if you want to get yourself up in grade, you've got to be able to use your opposite foot to get out of trouble as well. So there's a fine line. Yes, you've got to put some time into your deficiencies in your game, but you can't neglect the part of your game that's ticking along nicely. So if you're a good overhead mark, you've got to continually work on that. And just have a mentor to be able to give you some feedback, because you might be thinking you're at this level, but in fact you probably got some things to work on too. So having someone just to watch your game, if it's your old man or another coach or a coach from another grade, it doesn't matter who it is, just get them to watch an aspect of your game and get some genuine feedback. But yeah, I'm probably more just working on your strengths and getting them to a higher level.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we can. There's plenty of footballers out there that I guess focus too much on what they've been told they're not good at, and I guess forget to really keep advancing the strengths that they have. In saying that, in more of a general sense, having retired now and watched the game change a lot since your playing days, what do you think are the most, I guess, desirable traits for a young footballer wanting to break into the AFL in today's game that perhaps wasn't as important back when you were playing with the evolution of the AFL?
Well, for me, sorry, it's just slipped on me, the camera. For me, just watching the game now, I still think just the guys' courage to take the game on, like hitting those usable 45 kicks and opening up the whole game. There's still a lot of safe players out there, I think. So that takes time to be able to just hit those targets in a game of footy and get your confidence up, I suppose. So yeah, just watching the game now, I think that's definitely something that can still be worked on because there's too much down the line stuff happening, and the teams that play at a fast pace, like your Doggies and Geelong at times as well, just really chop you up by those sort of changing the angle kicks. So I encourage the young players, if it's on, use the usable because it opens up the whole other side of the ground too. So that's my sort of theory on it anyway, watching the games of today.
Couldn't agree more there, mate. Just obviously with the evolution of the game and so how fast it is, but obviously a few things don't change and in the game, and definitely touched on those points where you're really strong in physicality and competitiveness, and the right attitude, I think, is important, and that'll never get washed away in the game. So really important for our listeners out there to take note of that one. Now on to your coaching with us, mate. You're residing on the Sunshine Coast, a beautiful Sunshine Coast, operating your sessions out of there. One of the first coaches on the platform and been very consistent. Talk to us about what players can expect in some of your sessions, and how's the experience been for you as a coach on our system?
Oh, I've loved it, mate, to be honest. I've got 3 young ones under 6, so I can't commit to a full-time or to a coaching position. I'm just too unreliable with my work. I travel a lot, so this is perfect to be able to put up when my availability is during the week. I'm really fortunate you've hit me up a couple of years ago now, and I've been able to slowly get the range of players up. I've only had a few there for a while, but the platform's well known now, so it's starting to increase. So in terms of what to expect, I'm really I'm more than if you hire me just for the hour, whatever. I'm more than that. I keep telling the players you can hit me up, and you've got to use me as a resource outside of the session as well. So I've been able to develop some really strong relationships with the players that I've been working on, and I'm giving them some advice along the way in terms of recovery, what foods they should be looking at, some programs for weights, etc. So I'm very approachable, and I'm genuine with my feedback too. I want to make you better as a player, so I don't hold back. I'll give them honest feedback, and we really build on our sessions. We don't do the 2 of the same sessions. We really change it up and make it fun along the way. So, I've had a good strike rate. Basically, most all people that have had a session with me have stayed on. So, I've had some guys actually travel down from Harvey Bay, which is 3 hours north. They used to do that weekly, actually.
Yeah, we saw that come on. I was about to touch on that. It's extraordinary that some people travel regionally and for their fix of footy, and obviously quality coaching and mentoring. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and they still keep in touch with me. Just to obviously they're doing their own training at the moment and not using me as much, but they still give me a rundown on how they're playing on the weekend. So I really like that, and I feel like I've got a lot to offer and pass on. So really do like this platform.
That's a great little insight into one of the most popular coaches on the platform, and yeah, I guess that's something that we're really trying to help people with. Is not just the coaching, but yeah, like you said, the mentoring resource that someone with your experience can be for a young footballer. Now, mate, looking forward, so looking ahead, what's on the horizon for you for the next couple of years? Are there any goals that you'd like to achieve, whether it's coaching professionally or with your family? Yeah, what do the next couple of years look like?
Jeez, I don't know what I'm doing next week, let alone a couple of years. But I'd love to. Yeah, obviously I was very fortunate to get 9 years playing at Sydney, so I'd love to give back a little bit more, not on a financial point of view, but just being able to offer some of the local players in a coaching position. As I said, I've just got 3 young ones, so it's hard to commit at this stage. But eventually down the track, I'd like to get involved in coaching more consistently. You're looking after maybe one of the junior teams, so that's probably on the cards, but a couple of years away. I've got 3 young girls, so I'm just trying to get them around the footy a little bit. It's kind of hard; they're always getting around in the 2-2s at the moment, so it's yeah. I might try and get them down to Maroochydore. It's a local club here, so yeah, working on that at the moment, mate.
That's awesome, and yeah, the one-on-one footballers that you've got are probably enjoying the fact that you're not into a full-time coaching role at the moment. Yeah, footballers no doubt benefiting from that. Yeah, mate, that's about all we've got time for today. We'll wrap it up there. Yeah, thanks for joining us on the show. I've learned a lot, and yeah, hopefully the listeners out there have learned just as much.
Thanks,
No worries, guys,
thanks.
anytime.
Yeah, thanks, Bevo. It's been amazing, mate. I think as I said, a bit of an unsung hero, very underrated sort of player, and what you've achieved over the years. And now, as I said, we're very fortunate you've got that bit of flexibility with your hours, but obviously not taking on too much with your coaching, which fits nicely with the one-on-one family. And yeah, it's just great to hear your story, and hopefully a lot can pick up out there. It's not necessarily the trust me, I was a similar type of player, and you play your role and you get it done, and you get some success. Not everyone needs to be Buddy Franklin or Bontempelli, so just a really good story and quality person. So thanks very much, mate.
No worries, guys. Thanks for your time, and yeah, good luck to the players out there for the rest of the year if you're playing footy.
Thanks for listening to the One-on-One Football Podcast. If you got something out of today's episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to stay updated on special guests, new episodes, and more, please subscribe to the show on your chosen platform. And finally, if you have any questions for Rainsy or myself, or you want to get a particular guest on the show, please reach out. Our email address is podcast@oneonOnefootball.com.au. Thanks, guys. We'll see you for the next episode.